Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm your host and facilitator of this space, April Metzler, and I am here today to talk about burnout with my guest, JR. And of course, I want to thank you before we get started for showing up here and being present in this moment with us right now so that we can experience whatever it is that is going to happen in this moment together. So, thank you so much for being here. And JR, thank you as well. I appreciate it. If you can share, though, with the audience before we get started, who you are, what you do, and how you serve others, that would be great.
Absolutely. Well, my name is John J.R. Rennie. And to be true to our ministry, I have to introduce myself this way. I'm a born again son of the Most High God. Part of living out your purpose in life is to actually know, as a believer, that you are actually anchored into the family of God. You are adopted in. And then what our ministry does, we help people discover their God-given purpose and encourage them to walk into that to become exactly who it is that God created them to be.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I know that you do a lot of moving parts with the ministry. You and I shared about that backstage, and it's amazing work that you're doing with it, the discipleship, mentorship, all that jazz. I'm excited for you to have a space a little bit, probably through your testimony to share about that. But before we get started, when it comes to burnout, you guys, I want to make sure that you hear me when I say this little piece of information. It's a did you know moment here that 70% of leaders feel burned out within the first year of their leadership role. So, what does it look like when we take on additional roles beyond our capabilities, beyond our bandwidth, and we end up feeling that way? Or if we're in a role that's new to us and we've got all of these moving parts going on, we really want to consider that as we're going through this conversation because it's important and it's valuable, especially when we give our yes to opportunities that come. What does that really look like? So, thank you so much for being here. We're going to dive right into these questions. So, JR, from your experience, this is your story time right here, your space to share your personal experience in these buckets. What is one principle that has equipped you to lead effectively? And can actually have the potential to inspire others to do the same.
Well, I think one of the best business advice I ever received was from another business owner, and he said, figure out what you do well, do that, and then surround yourself with the people that do well what you don't. So I kind of always took that into mind is that, there is a niche that the best version of me can function in. And if I stay in that lane and then hire additional people, bring on the staff, have them do the other things that I don't do well, it allows me to be able to be the best version of me. And that has served me well for quite a few years now.
Yeah. And of course, not all of these solopreneurs and digital ministry outreach people or just ministry leaders in that space have the funds available. So I'm curious to
Right.
know, because you are operating in that nonprofit space and business space, like how that actually pertains to that particular group. And if you can add an extra layer to that, like how do you go about doing that, finding people to support what you're doing?
Well, that's challenging, and it's usually based upon success. So when a person goes through our digital workshop program, at the end of that, there is a 3 hour coaching session where we actually help them figure out who it is that they were created to be. And sometimes those are things that they can actually immediately apply at church or at work, or in some cases even with ourselves. For instance. The book that I'm about to release this year, Sparks Turn into Brush Fires, the cover was painted by a prophetic artist that went through our program. She was a widow, a relatively new widow at the time, and had lost her complete identity because she was no longer married. The editor of the book is also a graduate of our program who has been working behind the scenes and online um, support areas, but loves loves to edit. And so she went off and started a ministry called Red Pen Ministries. And so I can look at any number of different things that are part of our ministry, and people just, if you know where they can plug in and they recognize that that's who they are, they love doing it. I had a call just last week from another one of our graduates. I hadn't talked to her in probably a year or so. And she says, I've been wanting to redo those intro videos that you have, and I've got this new tool I'm using at work. Would you mind me redoing all your videos? I was like, no, please. It's not, I can come up with the content of those things, but the editing and all the other graphic aspects of it that really make it punch, that's not my calling and that's not my gifting. But Kaylee is awesome at it. And if you go to our website and go to our introduction page, you'll see her work.
There you go. See, and that is what one of the things that I operate in, and I love it when I see others doing that as well, honoring the talents, the gifts, the skills, everything that is what makes you you and unique and providing that space for them to flow in that is beautiful. So that's awesome that you're doing that. And that's what you each can do if you're out there looking for people. It's just coming alongside them and doing life with them and seeing what they're gifted in, what their talents are, and helping them if they don't even know how to identify it, getting them connected to resources like JR is working on building out in that space to help them on that journey. It's beautiful. So what's one challenge that you faced in your journey, speaking of journeys, that others may encounter? And you've been in this leadership space for a minute now, so you can probably speak to this on a lot of different levels, but as it pertains to burnout, like a challenge that got you there, like speak to that for a minute and how did you actually overcome it?
Well, the answer of overcoming it is actually figuring out what my God-given purpose was and actually pursuing that. That was the solution. The that all was predicated by recognizing that it was happening. I was at this. This is when I was still very much into the software business, and I was at a sales conference, and they were doing, this vision board thing where you take pictures of a new house and a new car, and and that was their idea of, you need to have a vision that you can strive towards or dream towards to be able to really motivate yourself. And I couldn't connect with any of that because I really wasn't motivated by, new car, new house, none of that stuff was motivating. But what really struck me, and it was really a heart strung moment when I go, I don't dream anymore. I don't aspire for anything anymore. And that realization just hit me deep in my soul. And I was analyzing that in my mind. I'm going, I operate out of duty, responsibility, and obligation. That is everything. I am doing what I'm supposed to do as a business owner. My duties, my responsibilities, my obligations. I perform at church. I show up. I'm part of this committee. I tithe. I do that. I show up for my family. But none of that was aspiring to something that was really partnering with God. None of that was bringing me joy. I had success. I had financial success. As I just shared with you, my wife and I have been married for 45 years. So I'm having family success. But success in itself does not bring joy. And joy is what I knew that I was seeking. So once I figured out in 2016 what my purpose was, and I started being led by God to pursue that, all of a sudden joy was being produced. And all the talents that I had developed over the years were now being redirected to produce something good that God was not only leading me to, but was empowering and allowing me to have the authority to be able to accomplish. As
Mm.
you said, the God of suddenly. Um, I was introduced to the God of suddenly, and the God of suddenly was already saying, "All right, this is what I want you to do. Get to it." And that, for a guy like me who's wired like me, that was like, "Oh, I'm excited about this."
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, we were talking backstage about the goddess suddenly because I don't know where in the Hebrew or Greek it actually calls him that, but I know him as the god of suddenly. So just to share a little bit of backstage in our conversation and that's awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah. So the challenge really is just figuring out where you're at and where you want to be in what you're doing and finding that time is all up to you, you guys. Like, you have to create the space and make the room for the conversation with yourself and with God. And that's where it all boils down to. So, if you can be still and know He's God, kind of Psalm 46 state of existence, being still your mind and really consider these things that He's talking about. That's where a good start. That's a good start because the
Well,
noise, the chaos of this world's crazy, right?
well, and we do it to ourselves. There's another aspect of being burnt out when you are taking on too many things that aren't really wired for you. That wasn't really my deal. It wasn't as if I was overextended. I just had lost the joy or the passion with the software business. I had just been doing it for so long. But understand, and something we were just talking about, we are created as human beings, not human doings. I was having a moment with God. I was last year. I was going through a real struggle with the ministry, and I go, God, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know what I'm supposed to, what the next step is. And he stopped me as well, I was driving, so he didn't literally stop me, but and he goes, I didn't create you to do. I created you to be. Now, my three of my top four values that are derived from my purpose statement is being in control, being persuasive, and being influential. That's how he created me to be. So I'm supposed to be a person that is able to create order and to lead. I'm a person that's supposed to be able to persuade and influence people in the way that God wants them to go. And all that is connected to my purpose statement in that I help people embrace their God-given design so that they can produce the fruit that's waiting to be produced by their obedience, being obedient.
I like it. And that's exactly what one of the resource steps that you can walk through with all those steps gets to that. He knows that because he's developed this whole framework that lets you figure that out for yourself. So that time investment, you guys, investment in time so that you can go to your next season in a spirit of excellence is what that looks like in action. Not perfectionism, of course. We're all practicing here anyways, right? So we're just trying to figure it out, man. And most times I don't know. And it's okay to say I don't know. It's okay to say I need some help. And it's okay to, like reach out to others because that's how we move forward together, you guys. So as far as what keeps you grounded and motivated though when difficult times come, because we know that difficult times happen, life happens, what is that and how can others tap into that same strength?
Well, I think it really comes from that relationship with God and actually knowing the heart of God, and that comes from studying His Word. It comes from prayer time, a quiet time, the relationship building aspect of it. The way that I was transitioned from being a corporate, business owner to a ministry. I'll be real honest with you. I was dragged kicking and screaming. I was not happy. I liked my plan, even though I was miserable doing it. I was comfortable with that misery. And I got to a place where I did this self-analysis. I'm going, all right, what has happened is not my fault. I couldn't point to a sin where, I did something and mistreated an employee or a client where the consequences of my bad choices. And so I got to this moment, it was like May of 2016, where I go, and I said this out loud, I know you're behind this. What do you want?
Are you talking to God in that
Yep, I
context?
was talking to
It's like,
God.
I know this is you.
Yeah, because I couldn't put my hand on why this happened. Okay. Our software product is excellent. It's still working and running businesses throughout North America. Um, I had a stellar reputation. I'm going. no, this isn't me. This is him. He's doing something. Now, I didn't hear him laugh, but he must have. And it was probably something like this. Oh, good. I'm glad I got your attention. Now,
Finally.
yeah,
Now, now that you're
now it's going to
purposing.
be another 3 months of you being on the timeout. And then I'll start to let you know what I want to do. Okay? Okay. So,
How funny. You called it a timeout. That's funny. That's funny. Okay. So I have to share this over the airways with you guys. Dave Ebert was used to be a comedian here and I got connected with him a while back and he's already went on to be with Jesus transition. There's like a gazillion different ways that Christianese says someone died, but he died. And his wife is amazing endurer through this. And you and I were talking about the change from someone turning into, that widow label of no
right.
longer having a husband. And she's walking that out, one step at a time with all of this. But Dave used to have this thing that he said all the time, and I just love his heart about, wanting to connect people to the God who literally invented laughter. Because it is like he's the creator and one of the more creative things that we can do. And it is actually proven that humor is one of the biggest sources of connection between people. And so there's so much validity in the mission that he had to share that. But it's beautiful because God does have a sense of humor, and I'm sure he was laughing. I am certain. He made me, and I'm a jokester, and it's like these moments are just beautiful when joy gets involved. So,
Yes.
yeah, I really love that. So thank you so much for sharing on there. Okay, so out of everything that you shared, this is the big one. This is solutions and action time, possibly, maybe. We'll see. What's your key takeaway out of everything that you've shared with your story that you hope that they hear and that they can actually take and apply it in their leadership?
Well, the phrase "God loves you and has a wonderful plan for you" is not a cliche. It is actually the truth. He created you for a purpose, and that purpose is how do you serve other people. Every purpose statement that we produced as a byproduct of our program for our graduates is how do you serve other people in this world. And it's not until you're about the work that the Father has created you to do that you're really going to experience joy. Back in 2013, before all this came to fruition, I wrote an article called "What is Joy?" And the basis of that article was I was examining the life of Paul, and he got shipwrecked, and he got imprisoned, and he got beat, and he got falsely accused, and he got stoned and left for dead, and all this stuff. And then he comes up with this, and I consider it all joy. What? What? Oh, wait a minute. That makes no sense to me. And so I was struggling with that. And God whispered in my ear, He goes, He was doing what I created him to do. And then it was like that was a big breakthrough moment for me in my spiritual growth because it was his relationship with God that was required for him to be who God created him to be and to accomplish the work that he accomplished. It was that relationship. So it wasn't the external circumstances of being beaten in prison and so forth that was his joy. It was the relationship of being in with his father, being able to be used as he was created to be used. That and when I wrote that article, I wrote, I want to be part of a church that's going to help me discover that for myself. And then I want to be able to do that for other people. My spirit knew what my purpose statement was. That was 3 years before it was actually developed and written. I knew that I wanted to be part of helping people discover their purpose because that was the secret passage to joy. Joy is the outcome of being obedient to God's call in your life. So when I discovered that, it was like, no, that's what I want. Forgot about the article, went down through through the whole situation, transferring through the business, developed this purpose statement with the guy that that trained me on the assessments. And effectively, my purpose statement reads, I must strategically lead a gifted team to embrace the power of their God-given design for long-term positive results.
Mm.
My heart wish that was written in that article in 2013 became realized when my purpose statement was developed, and I completely did not connect the two.
Years later, the aha moment kicks in. Like it's so funny because as you learn how to be what you are called to be and you walk those steps out, you learn more and more. Each step there's a little bit more clarity, a little bit more revelation. And so often you find ourselves in these interesting states of stagnation and stuckness of getting stuck on that question. Like, what am I supposed to do? And I need clarity and I need some confirmation before I take the next step. No, you just step one step at a time by faith, not knowing anything about what you're doing, but hearing that prompting, that whatever you want to call it, that download, that Holy Spirit, small,
Right.
still voice, like, but I can't, as you were talking about the joy, thank you so much for sharing that, by the way. John 15:11. I pulled it up so I could read it real quick, but I thought that that's how it said it, and I wanted to make sure before I released it over the airwaves. But there's a couple of facets of the joy that it talks about, and it says, I have told you these things, and so that my joy and delight may be in you and that your joy may be made full and complete and overflowing. There's a multifaceted conversation there that we could have that would go for a long time, but I just want you to be encouraged for the audience that's listening right now to delve into that. And then, of course, Paul's testimony. That's a good one. It's like, bro had so many things hit him so much. And then he's over here like, but I count it all joy, but God, it's this, how well do you know yourself and how well do you know God? And how can you walk that out every single day and still maintain your peace in the middle of drama? I can't, man. It's good stuff. Good stuff. So, can you give a connection point to the audience, though? Because I know that this will resonate with a lot of people, and the service that you are providing right now is phenomenal, especially through the ministry, but also through the business as well. Just a place to connect to both of those. And then, if you have a free gift or anything, this would be the time to do that.
Yeah, so if you want to use this in a corporate environment, because the assessments that were made available to us have been used in the corporate world with IBM, Coca-Cola for decades, and the corporate world is a little bit different. You're going to have to, back off some of the Christianese. So we have a website called reallivingassessments.com where you can go there and it be used in any kind of um, uh, organization, believing or non-believing. Our heart, though, is in our ministry, and that is brushfires-digital.com. If you register at that site, you will get you'll get two books. You will get our spiritual gifts assessment. We make that free to everybody. You simply need to register as a new user, and then on your start page, you'll see a link to be able to do the spiritual gifts assessment. There are videos there about how to get started with our program. And basically, all our contact information is at brushfires-digital.com. And we just really want to help people. We don't have a vested interest in what it is that God's called you to do. In fact, every purpose statement has been different, just like the DNA and fingerprint is for every individual. There is no blueprint on how this works. We want to help you figure out what it is that God wants you to do, train you how to begin to pursue that and embrace it so that you can have that close relationship that Paul had, that he considered it all joy. What finally delivered me from duty, responsibility, and obligation to joy, and to actually start to bear fruit, like Galatians 5 says, because Your obedience to God's calling your life is going to produce fruit. And who does not want love, joy, peace, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self control? What difference in your world would that make if that was how people described you?
Those are good challenges. I mean, he's throwing down stuff like I normally throw down for you guys. This is good. Okay, well, that's it for now, folks. I ain't even gonna add any layers to that. But thank you so much for being here. Be sure to connect with him. And of course, we're gonna be unlocking so much more through this interview series and other events that we do here at Intentionally Teachable Leaders. But until then, I encourage you guys, keep showing up and stay focused. Get into that stillness of just being in Him and as you, as He created you to be. And then, of course, take action as intentionally teachable leaders.